FOIA requirements, and I would ask someone to approve the agenda, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on the current agenda? Seeing no discussion, we will move forward with approving the agenda without objection. Sarah, after all that fun we had, is there anybody online that wishes to speak today, or anyone in the audience that'd like to speak during our citizens' comment?
No, sir.
And no one in the audience would like to speak? All right, great. Let's move forward then. And I think Mr. Butts, look forward to having you come before us each time, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Good afternoon. Last time we met, which I think was September, I gave you all some numbers from our Register of Deeds department. Today I would like to do something similar from the assessor's office, one of our division departments. 'Tis the season, so legal residence applications. As of last Wednesday, November the 16th, the department had received 8,143 legal residence applications. That's the 4% request applications. Good news is that 6,603 have been reviewed by the assessor's office, leaving 1,540. And so that's an average of 904 per month that's coming in since March 15th, which was the deadline that was extended last year for tax year 21. So uptick from this time a year ago when we were averaging about 780 per month. And if you have any curiosity about the busiest office of the assessor in the county, that would be the Bluffton office. They, in the last week, 858 walk-ins to that department seeking assistance. And of course, the big reason for that was the mailing of the tax bills November 1st. And despite the efforts to ask people to get in early, they typically wait for those tax bills and they come in and start those applications. Ms. Sanders has done a great job with her staff in taking the approach of all hands on deck. She knows what's on the horizon, and that is the quadrennial reassessment next year. She's been making community presentations in preparation for that reassessment. She spoke at Stand for Land Taxpayer Empowerment Workshop on October 29th, as well as the Hilton Head Legal Staff Professionals meeting on November 8th, and the Beaufort City Council just last Tuesday. She has a presentation scheduled with Hilton Head Town Council after the first of the year, and our hope is that the other municipalities will take advantage of the county's offer for her to come and present her knowledge about the reassessment and how it affects property owners in our county. And if there are any groups or organizations out there that would like for her to come and speak to your meeting or event, you can call the assessor's office and just ask for David Gregory, and he'll get you set up, get you on Miss Sanders' schedule. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Butts. Anybody that has a question, Larry?
Hey, Dale, the schedule for the reassessment values to be established, is that the end of December of this year?
It is, yes, sir, December 31st.
Okay, and then will the notices be going out with those new numbers you made?
Well, those notices would go out at the typical time for next tax year, next fall.
Well, okay, but people have a period of time when they can appeal those evaluations, so there's no adjustment in the mailing schedule? I'm not talking about the mail to pay the tax, I'm talking about the notification.
I got you. I'll check with Ms. Sanders on that and get an answer for you, Mr. McKellen, exactly what that calendar looks like. I'll send that to you.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I know the steps along the way where it's announced, and then there's an appeal, and there's also a notification of how the appeal is worked out.
Right.
before you have to pay. And I think that's probably somewhere in advance of what we normally do. So if you can get that back to me, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Chairman Passman, go ahead.
I believe that the assessor's office by December of this year will have the reassessment done. For the next 6 months, they will be tweaking things, and notices of reassessment to all the properties that have been reassessed and I believe it's 133,000
Right.
properties here,
Right.
will receive that notification by June, so that if there is appeals, they can start then, between June and November, when the next tax bills would go out.
Yes, sir.
I
That
think
does
that's
sound
the,
about, that does sound
The
about right.
process we're gonna be going through.
Correct, yeah. Incidentally, if the new council is interested in hearing from her on this topic, just let us know. We're happy to set that up for you.
Yeah, I think there all we need is just the text or an email, telling us what the schedule is.
Yes, sir.
Great. Any other questions for Mr. Butts? All right, seeing none, Mr. Butts, thank you again. It's always a
Thank you.
pleasure to have you.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on to agenda item number 8, and this is for discussion purposes only, and we are graced with the presence of Mr. John O'Toole, the Executive Director of the Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation. Mr. O'Toole.
Oh, you skipped number 7.
Oh, I did? No, you gotta cut. John, I'm sorry. No, we gotta, yeah. We gotta keep your feet to the fire, Mr. Williams, so come on up here.
Thank you, council member. I'm just going to try and be real brief. I'd like to kind of give you all an update of kind of where we are. We've closed fiscal year 2022. The auditors we've uploaded the majority of their stuff to their file software. We've got about 88%, last 12% or more annual comprehensive report related items that we can't really do until we get them further along in their draft. The auditor is currently drafting the financial statements for us. They're hoping to get it to us in a fairly quick time frame. And I have talked to the partner at Malden and Jenkins, and he doesn't feel like there's any problem with us having it in by the deadline of December 31st, which would be probably the first time in a decade, so which would be good. Next. I kind of want to go over some employee highlights. I want to introduce you. The first one is our new budget manager, Brian Cronin. He was our senior accountant. He's not with us today. He's out on leave for the week. He's been here with us for about a year, but he'll be heading up, getting the budget going. I'll address that in a little bit. We've also hired a new grants administrator where Shannon Milroy is here. It's Ryan Muth. He's already cut his teeth with the State Accommodations Tax Board. They had a couple revisions that they wanted to do, and they're planning on presenting next Finance Committee meeting. We had Bryson Campbell. She has just started, and she's taking not a senior accountant position, but she's starting out as a staff accountant. She's right out of Clemson University, which will go Tigers. But anyway, so we're lucky to have her. She got her accounting degree there with a very impressive GPA. We're happy to have her on staff. But finance has made some really great hires, I think, over the past, since I've been here. And we're really going in a positive direction, I think, for Beaufort County. Next slide. Here's kind of a snapshot of the budget calendar. We had a meeting with assistant county administrators last week and kind of went over the timeline. We're doing it a little bit differently this year. We are there's an employee compensation portion in ClearGov where we can upload and run certain scenarios where you're not uploading massive spreadsheets. It should make it easier for us to do. We're planning on getting all that kind of uploaded and in. We're going to have county council sessions in January, but our goal is to have the last reading of the budget in the first county council meeting in June. And although y'all's calendar has not been set yet, but when it is, we can kind of lock these dates down a little bit better. Kind of after January is kind of up in the air a little bit. But we'll lock everything down a little bit better and probably get more detail. But we're going to have this out on the website, and it'll be kind of a living document as it gets changed. You can go to the next one. All right, Beaufort County ARPA plan highlights, and so we've received $37 million from the American Rescue Plan Act. The county council has provided guidance to the county administrator and county staff via the ordinance of 22/16. Hank Amundson, who is here today, is going to come up and kind of give you a presentation of, where we are, where we're going, and how we're getting there, so.
I might move your laptop so I don't mess it up. Is that all right?
Just don't drop it.
Good afternoon. As Hayes said, I won't repeat all the things with the numbers, but I wanted to go over a couple things. As we said, we'd come back with periodic updates of where we are, how it's going, how are we in relationship to deadlines and schedules. And we have through the end of 2024 to obligate the funds. Obligation is the difficult portion, actually. It's more than promising. It's working out the actual nuts and bolts of the plans and agreements. And so we are through almost, I started in February, so we're almost to 10 months, 11 months. And we are about 48% obligated at this point. So we're ahead of schedule there. However, that doesn't mean we slow down. We think that getting the obligation portion is important. We're going to try to get it done in year 2 of 4 so that we have time to expend, because the expenditure can't really happen until the obligations are in place. So I'll give you a couple highlights here. Some of the unobligated funds are awaiting minor property issues. As we've talked about, investments in parks or community centers or other issues, we want to make sure that we have ownership of property. As we know, issues, same thing with ferry terminals and things like that. So there should be some chunk expenditures. Some of the obligated portions have, as you've seen, been in workforce. We have done some infrastructure issues. The big chunk programs that will follow quickly, that's why I feel confident that we can go through the obligation process, is we are waiting for federal funds announcements or state fund announcements so that we can use this money as match as opposed to a sole funding source in certain areas. So broadband is a major focus of the funding, and that's awaiting the plan of what the state will do so that we don't double spend. And actually it may go a long way. Patrick Hill has been very, very helpful in trying to leverage those funds. Water sewer infrastructure, as we know, those are long-term planning processes, and so we're working with a grant program. It's called SKIP, South Carolina. It's a water and sewer grant program in the rural areas. The health centers, as we know, we want to have those throughout the county. Those are not included in obligated funds either because of property issues. And recreation projects, we know that those take time, and we are working with Chuck and his staff on those plans. Mm-hmm. But we feel confident if there's any questions you have, but that number 37, the big round number, is a little bit higher than that. We are, hopefully, with a favorable result later in my other presentations, we'll get to almost 18 million obligated, and feel like we're moving forward in the right direction. So if you have any questions, go ahead.
Any questions? Good.
Yeah, when you talk about ownership before funding is done. Help me with that. For example, you say that the county has to own the property before?
No, we just want to make sure, that's a good question. We want to make sure in certain cases, school district may own a piece of property that we maintain the building. We're trying to work out those issues, not in a purchase situation, but a transfer potential situation. To clarify the plat on St. Helena, for example, to look at where the community building might go. If we're going to put it attached potentially to the library or adjacent to a park, we just want to make sure that we have all of the ownership issues clearly on paper and platted so we don't run into the boat landing issue that we've run into over the last year or so.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone online? I can't see you, so if anyone online would like to speak, go ahead, speak up. So Hank, is there anything that you need from us, from county council, from finance committee that would help you, or
No, as we get into some of these programs and bring it back, just hopefully continued support and approval.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hank. So y'all agreed to do the PLT, and I kind of want to give y'all an update of where we were last year when we did it, because it kind of went through, and I want to kind of give y'all how much it paid. But last year, we allowed employees to cash in up to 60 hours of PLT, and 479 employees cashed it in. And that's roughly 40 to 45%, depending on what time of year it is. We range from 1,200 to 1,300 employees, depending on the seasonality. The total cost of the PLT was $775,000. When they called about it to see if we could fund it, I looked at our current progression as far as personnel services, and we had it in gap positions, so we could afford to go ahead and do it. And I just wanted to thank everybody that supported that from the employees, the participating employees, because it means a lot to the people that do participate in this program. So thank y'all for that. Next slide. And
Let
then,
me ask you a question.
Okay.
The question came up about cash flow with the county. Do you experience a cash flow problem in this county since you've been here?
not since I've been here.
Okay.
I'm not saying that we're never going to have one, but when you look at when we present the 2022 financial statements, our revenues are way over what it's hard to estimate revenues in this climate. We've had revenues and we've had pots of cash, but I've never gotten a call from the treasurer as far, and the treasurer actually manages our money. I'm not managing the money on a daily basis.
Right, I understand.
That she is, and so, but we if I have a bond payment coming up, I let her know. And they know that we have payroll every 2 weeks, and they know that we have what our AP, our AP is running $1 million to $2 million every week, and so they have those expectations, and they run cash flow models, and to get data hasn't been a
for you and the treasurer, this amount of money here, council made that decision last week, which is a surprise to the treasurer as far as cash flow, or to you as far as cash flow. Is that amount of money you'd be concerned about as far as cash flow?
I talked to Eric, and then I was on the phone with Maria right afterwards. So I mean, it was a non-issue. I mean, I told her, the lines of communication between the treasurer are very open. She doesn't mind calling me. I don't mind calling her. But if we have something unusual like this, and especially in the window that we had this come up in, I'm gonna let her know it's coming, because it's only fair to her. And her staff. But, I need to make sure also that somebody's there to make that deposit on Wednesday afternoon, if that's when, because we're trying to get it paid. HR is trying to get it to us by noon tomorrow. We're trying to have it paid by Tuesday at the latest on Wednesday, so it'll be in there for our employees for Black Friday. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
And I'll just run through the financial highlights really quick. I've attached the financial statements, they're a part of the packet. The revenues are still kind of low, which is to be expected this time of year. We won't really see anything, and I'll have a different report to you in February. But our general fund expenditures overall are lower than we expected, which allows for PLT payouts and stuff like that. We've been using the general fund and using the general fund balance for capital expenditures, and we have a capital improvement fund, which is still technically part of the general fund, but it's fund 1040 instead of 1,000, and we're getting them there so we can get these projects that take more than a year to get done. And it seems like it's hard with the purchasing process and the vetting process and the engineering process to get something done within a year. But we've had some big things that have gone on. We purchased several properties from TCL totaling $730,000. We proceeded with the condemnation of Helms and Way and Melrose Landing for a total of $4.9 million. We closed the Myrtle Park Fund and distributed the funds as instructed by y'all. Earlier, we had that ordinance and went through all that. Go to the next page. The Beaufort Executive Airport has operating income of $44,000 to date, which is great. The Hilton Head Island Airport has operating income right now of about $568,000. Solid Waste and Recycling Fund has managed to keep its expenditures 15.26% lower than budgeted year-to-date amounts. And the Stormwater Utility has done the same, keeping theirs at 19.7% 2% lower than budgeted year-to-date amounts. So all the details in the packet. If y'all have any questions, please give me a call. If y'all have any further questions for me?
Any other questions for Mr. Williams? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hervershawn.
Thank you. Hayes, can you give us an update as to where we are with the internal audit?
What, I think, are we at RFP, are we doing an RFP for that? I've got to talk to purchasing about that as far as the RFP goes. We don't know.
We'll get an answer.
We'll get an answer and let you know.
It's in
Yeah.
purchasing.
It's in purchasing.
That's one of those things, we've got an ordinance which requires us to do it. We skipped fiscal year 2022. Feels like I've been asking about it for months and months and months. We're now in the fiscal year 2023, so I'd like to see that move along expeditiously if possible.
We'll do.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Williams? All right, Mr. Williams, thank you for being here
Thank you.
today. I appreciate it. And Ryan, welcome aboard, and thank you for being here as well. All right, let's move on then to item number 8. And John, I didn't mean to give you a false start earlier, but you are up.
Thank you. Chairman, council members, it's a pleasure to be with you. I have a presentation, and am I able to move? Okay, so you can move through this. I have a lot of information. I know you gave me 15 minutes. I'll try to get through it quickly. I expect a lot of the slides will beg questions, and I'd be happy to meet with council members offline to answer it or answer it here today. The idea is to let you know what we've been thinking about on product and why we've arrived at the thoughts we have. No final decisions are made. Obviously, you provide the guidance as well as staff, and we've been working or liaison with Hank and Mark Davis and Rob Merchant have helped some of our thinking here as we go through different projects. So really just to get guidance. So I'll just go through it. Next slide. This is the agenda item. Basically, with the green tax that was just approved by voters, with all of the pressure on housing development, I think, and I hope you agree, that a balanced community, workforce housing, that you need to have balance. And so if we're not purposeful on reserving some space for future generations to make a living, we'll have just more traffic. Next slide. Our theme, that resonates with investors, people bringing good paying jobs to Beaufort County, are the environment, the skilled and ready workforce. We know that's challenging, but we still think we have an ace in a hole compared to other communities in the United States, with some 2,000 transitioning Marines in our county each year. And then I give Charlie Stone the bulk of the credit here, but unparalleled support. Companies we've worked with provide the best testimony to what a company, what investors can expect in Beaufort County. Our targets are clean, and we think fit well with Beaufort County. These we tend to prove each year at our Converge Summit with surveying of attendees. We'll move to the next slide. How we go about generating projects. We've had some 438 leads in our 5 years. We're just over 5 years in existence, and our work plan pretty much exists of this, marketing, networking, product development, and we've been piecing that together for 5 years. Workforce, branding and culture, working closely with the planners and the administrators in each jurisdiction, and then a lot of partnership and teamwork. I had shown you this at your strategic session last year. I'll just bring it up again. A company with operations in New Jersey and California realizes they need distribution in the Southeast U.S. They find this property that comes available on the 30th of January 2021, and by February 8th, it's under contract and This company is looking, at the encouragement of Jared Freilich, there's some issues with the road out there, and they're looking at developing the adjacent 10%. So to date, a lot of our product work is working with existing facilities and pieces of land that are zoned appropriately. We got a good system working out here with the head nod, so we're doing real well with the advancing of the slide. I better not nod my head inadvertently, though. We keep score, and most of you have seen this, but we're nearing 1,300 jobs that are averaging just under $46,000, and have projects with a projected investment of $250 million. So we show this to everyone, try to be real transparent about what we're doing and what the results are. And then I know some jurisdictions take pride in the fact that we've gotten incentives coming back in from the Department of Commerce to help Beaufort County businesses grow. This is where there'll be questions, but I won't get bogged down in this because I'm going to honor my 15 minutes. But it takes a lot of leads to get to the 53 completed projects. So this is some 436 leads, and they stay in various states, and they are dropped. And we do look at why they're dropped. Oftentimes, it's outside of our control. Company decides not to invest, decides to invest where they already are. A lot of questions could be asked here. Next one, and these I won't dwell on, but I know a lot of times I've picked up on the fact, well, you know, Beaufort County is the largest investor in the Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation. Where are the projects going? So I've graphed where the projects are going in terms of community, BLF being Bluffton, Hilton Head Island, Beaufort, Port Royal, and Beaufort County, BC. Next slide. I've also provided an analysis of where the investments are going, the bulk of the investments, Beaufort County, and then the other jurisdictions. Where the jobs are going, we've graphed this, so some 1,300 jobs, and you can see we've graphed that, and I can provide you the detail on that. Next slide. Retained jobs, you can see here, like where Port Royal was looking like a tiny little sliver, they did well with retaining some jobs. That's largely stoneworks going from Hilton Head to Port Royal. Next slide. The landing pad, this morning I met with a company over at the Don Ryan Center for Innovation, an Israeli company that's looking at the landing pad. This is space where companies exploring Southeast U.S., we're inviting them to come here, and SC South Carolina Department of Commerce is doing the same, inviting these companies to come to our landing pad. So we had the Japanese firm SkyDrive come here this morning. We met with a company out of Israel looking to establish operations in Beaufort County as well. So next slide. And SkyDrive is a flying drone. Interestingly enough, as a result of the marketing or free ink we got on this company, we have two other drone companies looking at Beaufort County. And these are passenger carrying drones. And the other company that we're talking to, again, another company out of Israel, has drones that provide security. So on demand, you can call upon that drone. I can tell you more about that. But next slide. And we're going to get to product, right? That's what you're expecting to hear about. I think what's good about what we've done, and basically, succinctly, in 5 years, we have not upset the environmentalist, and we haven't upset the people not in my backyard. And we like to stay on that side of the ledger. We work really closely with the environmental group, and on some of the products that we'll be showing you, and even some of the dollar amounts, we expect that Rural and Critical Lands, or this new organization that will handle the proceeds of the penny tax, will work with us to preserve land in areas where we're actually creating investment opportunities for businesses. And probably the third bullet there is that we try to work really closely with the Marine Corps, another group we do not want to tick off, but oftentimes they provide due diligence for us on the projects we're looking at. Myrtle Park, this building, you can see the brick in that lower right is being put on the building. It is 90% leased or sold at this point. So in terms of the quality of the project, we're hoping that we'll be able to show you and look at the clawback provisions of the contract if the jobs aren't what we expect. But it is 90% leased, which along with that Mira case shows that if we have it, it moves pretty quickly. Next slide. And I'm guessing you're advancing the slide, right? I'm making eye contact with the right person. Okay, good. You're doing great. Thank you. Buckwalter Place, this is a pad site in Bluffton, and we have a food processor, a supply chain to hospitality and tourism that's looking at doing a 40,000 square foot facility at this location. Next slide. The Magnus Spec building is fully leased, and we'll get into it in the next agenda item, but the first tenant would like to build the 221,000 square foot building down the road from this site. And we have signed a development agreement for the construction of a second spec building that's expected to be online, 72,000 square feet, in the fourth quarter of 2023. Next slide. This is a pad site. Commerce gave us a grant of $200,000 to build a pad there. We have an Albany company, a cosmetics company, looking to go under contract on this parcel. This is in the Commerce Park. Next site, or next one. Now we're going to get fancy here. We're going to press it. We'll go now once. This will show you the Commerce Park. And then we'll click it one more time, and it's going to show you the first star shows you where the spec building's going. The next star will show you where the pad site is, that green star where the pad site is. And then the blue stars, and there are no more stars, but the blue stars will show you where that is the acreage we're talking about in the next agenda item. But that is a company looking to build 221,000 square feet on those parcels. Next slide. One of the issues we have with product, and people say, okay, well, Beaufort Commerce Park has been our main source of product. This is a primitive outline of where most of the parcels are located, and most of them have some prohibitions due to the ACU zone, either accident prevention or noise considerations. What we do, wanting to be in the good stead of the U.S. Marine Corps, is anytime we have any prospect looking in that area, we provide complete transparency to the Marine Corps to evaluate the nature of the business, the materials that they would have there, if they would be explosive, or concerns about the number of people in the particular facility. So with what we have left in the Beaufort Commerce Park, I think it would sell out in 3 to 5 years. And I will say that in the middle of that site, we have that company that's going to build the 221,000 square feet in that yellow band there at the corner of Short Road and Schwartz. And what's interesting is we've already run their business through the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps is okay with their operations. So where we can get uses in the ACU zone, we try to put them there so that if we had some other use or investor who didn't want those prohibitions, we'd have the other site. So it's a little bit of juggling. Next slide. As we look at economic development, and I think the council's seen this before, environment's number one in this county for sure, education, economic development, workforce, skill development, and workforce housing are key, and then transportation. So with everything you have going on, we don't expect to be the only spoke on a wheel. There are even more important spokes than economic development, but they feed economic development, so we'll be happy to support those things. As we look at sites, we look at, oftentimes you hear about transit-oriented development or infrastructure-oriented development. I'm a proponent of infrastructure development, and where all of that comes together, right in the middle is where we want to pick our sites. And so that's what we've been doing as we evaluate sites. Next slide. We look at short-term, something that could be accomplished in 24 months, medium-term, 48 months, 4 years, and long-term might be 5 to 7 years. Next slide. What we've done, and I won't bog you down with all of this, but when we look at kind of a prioritization, and it's not necessarily short-term, then medium-term, then long-term, we understand through the administration and from council that achieving a cleanup, productive use of Libico is a high priority, and we've been working with staff trying to provide support in that. Southern Carolina Alliance provided a phase 1 study on the Libico site, and we're working with Mark Davis to get the phase 2 estimate, and staff is kind of running that, but that's moving forward. We just have numbers in there as placeholders. All of these need to be tightened up as we get more serious, but Libico is one that we are working with staff on, and I would say that's the project, the product that's on the front burner. I will say that our sense is that environmental groups are going to have some concern as to what goes there, but we feel that through this process we can get the sites cleaned up, assemble some 200 acres, and find once the county's gotten through its processes, we can market that site in a way that sits well with the residents, certainly with Councilman Dawson and the environmental groups. Next slide. And this is our short-term projects. And some of these have numbers attached to them, but we'll jump down to the bottom. Buckwalter Crossroads, this is property owned by Tom Zinn. We're working with him to get that certified through the Palmetto sites. I don't think that we'd have any real budget on that at this point, but if we were to control it as product, there might be an infrastructure spend out there in order to lock the use as something that the county council would like to see. Let's see, going back up to the top, at Hilton Head Airport, we have a group interested in investing about $18 million out there, creating 46 jobs, and we're working with John Rembolt on that. In order to acquire property from Hilton Head and then turn it over to the county, it might be our hope. We'll wait to see if we can get 90% of that acquisition funded by the FAA. But John Rembolt's on top of that, and we'll work with him on that. Yemassee Chilton Properties, it's 850 acres out there. Just so you know, I have a budget number in there, but I have a group out of Britain that would look at the site for construction or production, making electric vehicles, electric trucks at that site, and they like the rail access. I also have a local company looking at making rail cars out there, and they like the rail access to that site. There might be a way we can do this project without having to involve county funds, just working with the owner of the property now and getting these end users, and so there might be a limited spend out there. The price you see up there is taking it down a third at a time. As you may have recalled or maybe don't recall, but a predecessor economic development group tried to move this project forward, and I'm probably running long, aren't I? I'm going to zip it pretty quickly. But they try to take the whole site down at once, and we think we can take it down in 1/3 tranches. And if a company wants more, then they can bite that off. We think being in conversations with the owner of the property tees us up quite well if an end user comes along. And I might be visiting with this British company up in Toronto next Thursday or Friday to see what their interest is. But there are a lot of opportunities. And then I'll go to I think it's my last slide or second to last slide. Long-term, and obviously a lot of conversations with the county council staff and the town of Bluffton. But one of the projects or properties worth watching is Willow Run. It's some hundred, with the town acreage, 120 acres, that might provide some promise for recreational use, open space, and perhaps some headquarter sites. Aspirationally, I'd love to see in the next 5 years, 3 to 5 headquarters type projects locate in Beaufort County. And other properties up there, we're working with the chamber on reuse of the Naval Hospital. And one that's been out there, I think it's a non-starter, but some land just south of the Whale Branch that was proposed. And next slide are properties that we looked at over time that we did not pursue. And next slide would probably be the price if you did everything. I'm not suggesting you do everything, but it just shows you what we have in these different buckets. Hopefully today's presentation is just a beginning of a conversation. Next slide. And if there are any questions on this item, I'd be happy to answer them. Sorry for being long.
Nope, that was great, very good. Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. Any questions for Mr. O'Toole?
Just quickly, what do you show as long-term, short-term, intermediate, immediate terms for some of these site works and stuff? For an example, I'll give you an example. When you look at the Beaufort, the Gullah Heritage, is that a short-term, long-term, or immediate? It's about $2 million.
I have it as medium. So I think three to
wanna know
four.
where you are.
If it was chosen as a target, I think you could get it done in 4 years, inside of 4 years.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants a copy of those, I have copies here. I'd be happy to provide them.
Councilman Herbershon, I think I saw your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say, great presentation, John. Really appreciate it. It was interesting to see those data points between municipalities as well as unincorporated Beaufort County where the activities happen. It's really just kind of remarkable to think a few years ago we were basically where we were budget, and now here we are. So it's a fantastic job.
Well, Charlie and I feel blessed to do it here, and we like to think that the things we do in the various municipalities benefit all Beaufort County residents, but as somebody who grew up in a family of 7 kids, sometimes on Christmas Day, somebody's looking at somebody else's pile and wondering if they were treated fairly by Santa Claus. So we do try to provide some analysis.
John, will you make sure that all council members are sent the presentation?
I shall.
So this was just for discussion purposes. Any other questions for Mr. O'Toole?
Very good.
All right, John, I think we have you up for our next agenda item. Discussion concerning the sale price of a Beaufort County-owned property in Beaufort Commerce Park.
Yes, and this will be fairly, I hope, very straightforward. We used $208,650 to buy some 13 acres in the Commerce Park. As I just showed you in the previous slide presentation, Norman USA, our first tenant in the spec building, hopes to build a 221,000 square foot building in the park on the lot that I'm mentioning. We essentially paid $30,000 an acre. You paid half of it. City of Beaufort paid half of it, and it would be our intention, I think, in the spirit of the outcome of the Myrtle Park discussion, to return county money back to the county fund. So we're looking to return exactly what we spent on the property and return it back to the site fund. So we'd be treating it like revolving funds. But we don't really need any action, but if I could have some consensus that at least the Finance Committee is comfortable with us selling it at the price we paid for it some 3 years ago.
right, any
Well.
comment on that, or?
Yeah, if I might.
Yes, sir.
This
Yep.
item is not on your committee agenda as authorization to sell the property. So I would make sure you're aware of that. I'm not sure where this is going, but if the idea is to get permission from council to sell the property, this isn't in that position.
Okay. I see it as just a discussion item for us. So for us, other than just having discussion about this, anything else that,
No problem with the discussion.
okay.
Just don't want any votes
As long as we're
about
not
making
making any
recommendations to
motions or-
council about
or-
selling property. Yes,
Okay.
sir. If
I could just piggyback on that, as your representative out in the community, I just want to know if I'm representing a price point. I don't come back and I shock any council members.
Mr. Greenway, I can tell that,
Well, a couple of things. Again, you all have 4 new council members coming on the agenda. We went through this several months ago with the Myrtle Park issue, whereby, committee gave some indication of something. I'm not sure where the city of Beaufort is on this. They should at least be approached about doing the same thing and taking some stance on the issue about selling it for that price. You all just allocated $600,000 to the job site fund. I'm not sure if it's fair for you all to continue to invest in that job site fund without the municipalities who are also selling their property doing the same with their proceeds from the sale of the same piece of property. So those are just my thoughts since we're having discussions and things for you all to consider when you take official action on it. But I would be hesitant, based on what the county attorney has said to you all, for you all to give any indication today about where you stand on price.
so we should bring this back at another finance meeting? Is that what the recommended?
We should go out and market the property for the terms that we think is fair. And then when we put that deal together, we bring that to you all for you all to make a decision on whether or not you accept the terms of that agreement. And with regards to the job site development fund, if this property is sold and we put our proceeds into that, then we're going to be another $800 and something thousand based on what you all just did into the job site development fund. And I'm not sure, and Hayes, if you could get for me the amount of money that each municipality is putting into the same job development fund, because the recurring theme, as you all know from many people that serve on the Economic Development Board, is that this is a cooperative effort of all the municipalities, and it's a model that's established for the Economic Development Corporation for everybody to participate equally. So I just want to make sure, and I want to encourage the county council, even though there'll be 4 new members coming in January, that if we're going to talk about that publicly, that we make sure that our actions are mirroring the actual words of what we're actually doing with the Economic Development Job Site Fund. And that's just my 2 cents worth. So.
This is for discussion only? Yeah, Mr. Robin?
I would piggyback on what Eric is saying. First of all, if we're talking price, it probably lends itself to executive session, not signal to the world what we're willing to sell it for. But more importantly, I've thought for some time, not only are we putting the bulk of the money into the economic development, but we have very little representation at the board level, and I think that's something you come back with a new council. We should have significantly more representation since we represent the bulk of the money and 60% of the people live in the undeveloped part of the county.
Good, thank you, Mr. Robin. Anything else for discussion on this?
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, Mr. Dawson, go ahead.
Yeah, to follow up on the discussion and the points that the county administrator gave, then perhaps I would say for us to continue this discussion, perhaps at a follow-up meeting, but schedule, as Stu said, let's go into executive session and lay everything out on the table and just have an open discussion and make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward with these projects that might develop
right, good. Yep, Mr. Glover.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. You know, in my opinion right now, when we look at funding for the Economic Development Corporation, as a council, we probably need to sit down with all of the municipalities and move this thing forward so that when it's time for funding, everybody's agreed on a formula for funding the Economic Development Corporation. They were tasked to bring in jobs to Beaufort County. Not only jobs to Beaufort County, but to increase our tax base, getting it away from residential tax base to more of a commercial tax base. And I want to see them move forward. And if every time we talk about funding, there is a difference of an opinion, we need to really settle down on that. And, you know, we're supposed to have a presentation every year from the Economic Development Corporation as well as Southern Carolina. I think we need to do that, and so we all can be on the same page moving forward. They don't need to come here every time and look like we are squabbling over money. I think we need to have a formula they can work with, they can do long-term planning and move forward with that. So
Good.
I wish we could do that.
Good point. Any other discussion from any other council person? Mr. O'Toole, go ahead before I give final. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just say, the math that the administrator just used to say that we're actually increasing our expenditure to 800,000 is not true. Using the same logic you used for Myrtle Park, the 208,000 was spent in 2019. We're asking that it be realized back into the site and job fund. So we're actually going to be replenishing your own funds back into the fund. So that would be the point there. As far as discussing price points, and I'm all in favor of transparency and speed. I would imagine most of you went into government in order to increase the efficiency when it comes to government. So let me explain the conversations I've had with the city of Beaufort. First piece of land we let go at 20,000 an acre, even though the appraisal said it's worth 30. They're incentivizing the deal per acre. This latest spec building is going to be sold at 25,000 an acre, and we have told them, as the park is proven, as economic development in Beaufort is proven, we will move towards the appraised value of 30,000. So the similar conversation has been held with Beaufort. If there was a sale, to Mr. Keaveney's point and to Mr. Greenway's point, the sale would have to come back. But if you want to have a lengthy process, or if you're not happy with the work that the Economic Development Corporation is doing, just let us know. But in order to go out there, get somebody interested, then, and just so you know, this AIS was submitted in June. And here we are just about to get into Thanksgiving. So if it's to, and something we've had on our presentation since I got here, was to improve our brand by being simple, swift, and certain. When people ask a question, you give them an answer. Is it the perfect answer? Probably not. Could somebody criticize it? They probably could. But if you have the conversation and open, and somebody has the opportunity to say, that makes sense. We bought it for this. We didn't buy it to make money. We bought it to foster investment. The 221,000 square foot building is going to add $16 million of investment to the grand list and some 69 jobs in Beaufort County. That, to me, passes the smell test. I'd say yes, but it's your call. And I brought it to you for advice. But with the Myrtle Park, and now with this, every time I appear here, it's time I'm not spending out there selling what you've hired me to do, which is economic development and investment opportunities that don't alienate our residents, don't alienate people who care about the environment, and don't alienate the U.S. Marine Corps. and add grand list and quality jobs for residents. That's what I'm trying to do. If I'm not doing what you expect me to do, please let me know. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Toole, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you here. You always do a great job, but obviously on our side, we need to show transparency. We need to make sure everyone knows where money's being spent, where it's coming from, where it's going, and especially when it comes to some of the economic development things that we're doing. And we're in a unique situation right now where we do have 4 new council people coming on. So it's not something we want to make a decision now that would be affected by those 4 council people that have to live by our decisions. We've seen that happen before. So I guess at this point, Mr. Williams, is something that we can add to our next finance committee meeting and look at this a little closer. Is that something, Eric, that you think that would be the most appropriate? Unless there's another committee meeting, such as executive committee, that they could handle it sooner. Otherwise, I think would bring it back up with some type of.
I don't think it's a time-sensitive issue. We can
Okay.
look at finance in December. If you want to have a finance committee meeting in December, we can do it in January.
Okay, well, let's look at that and we'll consider that. All right, let's keep moving here then. We're now on agenda item number 10. Recommend approval of a resolution to adopt planning and zoning fee schedule changes to help offset the cost of services. And
Yes. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. If you remember, this was an item that we brought before you, I believe, in the June 2022 meeting, and at that time you requested some additional information, especially with respect to our existing fee structure and comparison of that to what we're proposing here. And then also, what we've also included in this packet are other communities. We've included the town of Bluffton, Charleston County, and I believe Dorchester County as a comparison. And realizing it's not a straight line item comparison because every community has a different way that they calculate fees, as you'll find as you go through this. I just wanted to start out by saying that these fees that our department currently charges were established in the spring of 1999. And so a lot has happened since that time. If you look at prices, there's been quite an increase as far as inflation. But in addition, that was in the adoption of our zoning and development standards ordinance. Since that time, we've adopted a community development code. There are quite a number of additional requirements when we go through a permit that this new code requires of us. And every time we amend it and I think that all of this is good for the community, but it definitely increases the amount of work that we need to administer the code. As we go through this list, and I'm not going to go item by item, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions. One of the things I wanted to highlight is that the simplest permits and applications that people seek in our department, we're really looking at a nominal increase, basically following cost of living. So when we look at such things as a minor subdivision, a zoning permit, family compound, those are fairly, with kind of following inflation. But there are some other areas where we've looked at how the old fees are structured and realized that they really don't reflect the amount of work that application produces. An example would be a minor subdivision. Right now, they're calculated at $25 per lot. And our code defines a minor subdivision as 4 lots or fewer with no new road. And the way our code works is the minute you trigger a major subdivision, then all of a sudden a lot of other factors come into play. We need to look at required open space, stormwater. A lot of times there's internal roads, and so there's a bit of a leap. And so to say $25 a lot, just increasing as something goes from minor to major does not really reflect the amount of work. And so that's one of the reasons that we kind of took another look at how we structured the fees here. Another thing I wanted to bring to your attention, and I know that there's this is Beaufort County, and we love our trees, and every time trees come down, I know that all of you hear about it. Right now, we're working, the cost to mitigate if somebody is developing a parcel and they can't work around a specimen tree and they remove that tree, we basically require them either to plant back on the lot or to pay into the tree fund. And, the way our fees are currently structured, that's a bit of a bargain as far as paying into the tree fund. It does not reflect the cost of planting a tree on the site. And so things like that, we wanted to adjust, to basically not only to be fair and reflect the actual cost of things, but we think that it also, I think policy-wise, might lead to more people reconsidering whether it's worth it to remove a tree or, not to plant back on site. So wanted to draw that to your attention. But I would say that when you look at some of these may look high, but most of those are reflecting, I would say, major developments, major commercial developments. We want to make sure that that fee reflects the amount of work that goes into reviewing that plan. And so, and then I think the final page here, we added this. Some of these fees may seem, shocking at first, but, development agreements, and this is something, the amount of work necessary when somebody is doing a development agreement on our end to make sure that we are entering into an agreement that we could live with during the term of the agreement, it requires a lot of work on our part, and so we wanted to make sure that if somebody is seeking that route, that the cost of us making sure that we are, doing the best, looking over the document, making sure that we're comfortable with it, that these fees reflect that cost. And so that's one of the reasons that we recommend that these are all new fees for development agreements. Currently, there's no fee structure in place to reflect that. One final note, and none of these go into the planning and zoning department. All the fees that are collected go into the general fund. So regardless, we want to make sure that the amount of work that occurs in our department based on the workload, the permits, the zoning amendments, all the things that come into our office, that the amount of money that is collected in fees reflects that. And so we don't stand to gain as a department, but I think it also helps that the amount of fees that we're collecting, I think is better reflects the amount of work that it takes to review these developments. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
And let me just say, Mr. Merchant, I apologize, I didn't give you a proper introduction.
Oh.
Robert Merchant, I was searching for your official title, which, Acting Director of Planning and Zoning. So again, I apologize when you first stepped up. Is any questions for Mr. Merchant? Go ahead, Joe.
On the development agreements, that would be for future development agreements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about a development agreement that exists and the development agreement, they want to modify that development agreement? Would those fees would be the same? Okay.
Future development agreements and future amendments to existing development agreements.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? And what we're looking for today is for us to approve this, and then it would move to county council for 3 readings. Is there?
No.
I'm sorry, it's a resolution,
Yeah.
so just be 1 reading?
Yeah.
So 1 reading, but it would go before council. Any other comments? And if there's no more comments, do we have a, oh, yes, sir, you're good.
I don't have a problem with the numbers you have here, but I would ask a question about family resident moving from 25 to 50. That's 100%. How do you justify that?
Actually, family compound, we're keeping the same. We're keeping it at 25 because we recognize a lot of times in those situations, we're dealing with.
And then the last question is, what do you call a special event?
In our code, we have different types of permits, temporary use permits, special event permits. One example, several years ago, the circus was going to come to Habersham. I don't think it panned out because of the weather, but it's a lot of work on our part, doing the permitting for those types of events. And so it's something that's in the code.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Move
Robin?
the new fee schedule, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Is there any more discussion? Seeing no discussion, is there any objection to us moving this to council for a resolution? Seeing no objection, this will be moved to council.
All right.
Mr. Merchant, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's move on then to number 11 on your agenda.
We're gonna ask that you all take 11 and 12 as one. We'll do both presentations, and if we can take one motion on both of those, that would be great.
Okay, so we're going to do both presentations, 11 and 12, and then take a vote, hopefully have an amendment to move forward. So, obviously, Hank, you're going to be presenting this as well?
Yes, sir. Hello again. As requested to do these together, I'll describe them separately, though. Number 11 is the second part I made, I think it was in 2 months ago, for the Good Neighbor Fund, where we request the cities, the municipalities, to make their requests for their allocation. I've attached those letters. They all fit with our joint planning and ARPA initiatives. If you have any question on those, I can elaborate. But Beaufort is going to further affordable housing. Hilton Head is going to create a community development corporation to serve the underserved and most affected areas. And Hardyville is going to support joint efforts between the city and county moving forward. That's what their letters are for.
Okay.
Secondly, it's actually very exciting. I know I'm not here to judge anybody else's presentation, but this is exciting because our nursing initiative that we started first has really grown. And the second phase of that, we're talking about building a pipeline for the medical field and nurses. So we started with filling that pipeline. So we worked with the high school, we worked with the colleges, we worked with the hospital. So that's when we launched what was called the PATH program, People Achieving Their Highest. I can't take credit for that. That's a Russell Baxley program. That's why he's here to support. He's been a good driving force behind this, thinking holistically about the medical community. People are trained for all facilities, even though Beaufort Memorial is the most bought in the process. However, this has then fostered a need for capacity. We can get more in the pipeline, but now we need to be able to educate and train and not have multiple entities build multiple facilities in which to train them. So, as I wrote into the agenda item summary, I did forget a word, so excuse my grammar. I was trying to get it in time. But it's innovative, but we're not the first. There's an example in Lexington where a hospital and the University of South Carolina system have come together to have a joint facility to greatly increase the capacity. But it's not just the capacity and the number of students and nurses. It's also the quality of the training, the modern nature of the facility in which they're trained. I attached a floor plan. It's very exciting. We've had multiple meetings that started with how do we get people in the system. So we get high school kids, college kids, and even existing employees that are not medical within a hospital. This will then create one-way mirror situations with the best possible simulations, debrief rooms, and classrooms. But additionally, it creates capacity for testing and certification. There is not a local testing and certification center. In fact, people have to travel great distances to do so. So in this facility, not only will our people not have to expend resources to go somewhere, it'll actually attract people to the area. This is, again, would be located at Beaufort Memorial Hospital in their space, but city, county, USCB, and the hospital would be contributing to this renovation. I'd be asking for this $500,000.
Great. Any questions do we have for Hank?
Great idea.
What?
I will be happy to make that motion for items 11 and 12.
Second?
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve items 11 and 12. Any more discussion from anyone online? Anyone in chambers here?
Just quickly, I don't see, with the nurses training facility.
Yes, sir.
I don't see collaboration with technical college.
They were involved in the initial discussions. They have decided not to participate. They said they did not need the extra capacity.
Oh. Okay. Thank you.
Before you vote, I'd just like to say one thing. A few months ago, several months ago, as you all are aware, we were at odds on certain issues with Beaufort Memorial Hospital. I just want to take this opportunity, since he's here today, to thank Mr. Baxley for the job that he did working with me to navigate that process, to help put that issue behind us and restore a positive working relationship between the county and Beaufort Memorial Hospital. They're great partners. Russell has my high esteem and deep professional respect, and I enjoy working with him. So.
One more detail just for the record. Additionally, what happens in this joint training facility is the hospital actually provides clinical instructors. It also allows for people to walk across the street and gain clinical experience, and most importantly, walk into jobs.
Mm-hmm. So
Great.
this is part of the money under ARPA funds that can be obligated and be spent as quickly as we can.
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
It's already been appropriated. We just need you all to approve the authorization to expend the money.
Okay.
Great. If there's no more discussion, we will approve this without objection. I do not see or hear any objection, so this is approved to move to council. Mr. Amundson, thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. You always do a great job. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 13. Recommend approval of a contract with governmentjobs.com. And Mr. Marshall, I think that,
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We are asking for this body's approval of some funding from the GEO-IT Technology Infrastructure Bond to fund a new applicant tracking system, basically, and it's much, much more than that. This will replace our legacy system that's attached to Munis. It will give us an enhanced user experience. It'll give us greater efficiency, more capability than we have with our current system. Our responsiveness will be better between applicant and organization. Our responsiveness will be better between Human Resources Department and hiring manager. Should speed the process. There are already over a dozen local governments in the state of South Carolina that have this product and are using this product. And as best we can tell, they're very satisfied with this product. And so we're asking for your support in replacing what we currently have, which is neither user-friendly nor efficient with this, and it should help with our recruiting efforts as well. It gives us expanded recruiting capability.
all right. Any questions for Mr. Scott Marshall, our Human Resource Director? All right, so we're looking for,
I will be happy to make that motion.
Second?
thank you, Chairman Passman, and I think Mr. Rodman was second there, but thank you, Mr. Dawson. And any objection to us, and this is just us purchasing, this is something that's within the Finance Committee's
Yeah,
ability to.
we probably should clarify that the amount is for a 3-year period.
Yes,
All right, so that total amount then would be 190,000 spread over 3 years?
over a period of 3
3
years.
years, okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Great, so we're going to approve this without objection. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that has been approved.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Marshall.
Thank you, committee.
All right, we're moving on now to executive session. Do you want to,
Well, again, this is one of those issues where we're going to recommend the purchase property to you, adjacent to the All Joy Boat Landing. If you all want to go in executive session, discuss it, you can. If you want to discuss it in open session, we're fine to do that as well. So,
Yeah. a vote.
well, so no problem to open session?
No.
That's fine, let's go ahead. Everyone thinks we go back there and there's all kind of crazy things we talk about, and they find out that's pretty boring, actually. So, is Ms. Ward, are you going to present this to us? I am. Thank you.
I have to bring my finance guru up here with me for a little support.
We're looking for you all to make a recommendation to council. We can do the more detailed presentation at council. We just want to make sure you all want us to pursue this at the staff level right now to put the details together on this particular deal. I think Councilmember Lawson, you're already fairly aware of the issue.
All right, Ms. Ward,
Yes. Came to me a short time ago to look into this property. This is considered 2 Mullet Street. It is actually 2 properties. And if GIS will pull up to make everybody aware of its location. Can everybody online see that as well? Okay. So this is Mullet Street, Alljoy Landing right here with the boat ramp. As you can see, the highlighted parcels here, it is one parcel that is approximately 0.4 acres. The purchase of the property, as it is currently listed, and it is listed with a real estate agent at this time. So it is on the public market. The house you see right here is actually part of the purchase. So the purchase, or the listing together, are the 2 yellow parcels that you see here, as well as this other highlighted parcel here. They are being sold together. The family does not wish to have the parcels taken apart for reasons of the county purchasing it, so the county would be buying it all together.
Okay.
What kind of house? The house itself is what, a home, I mean?
It is a pretty nice home. It is, I believe, a 4-bedroom.
1,000 square feet or?
It's slightly larger than that. I can get you the details of the home itself and provide you with the details of it. Like I said, it is listed online.
and Ms. Ward, the total of all 3 properties is, what was the total acreage of that?
It is a little over, I'm pulling it up right now. It's a little over half an acre.
Okay.
So I'm unsure at this point as far as how many parking spaces we would be able to have. Right here, engineering has said that it would be complementary to the boat landing and how it sits. It would alleviate some of the parking issues that are currently down there.
Okay.
I have spoken with the family. It is currently listed, but we have put in a letter of intent for it to be appraised. And based on an appraisal, we are speaking about 1.9, I believe. 1.9 million.
That's including the house?
That is including the house. It would be up to council and our administrator to determine what use of the house we would have or what we would like to do with the home. But the purchaser is fully aware of our desire to expand the parking of Alljoy Boat Landing and the need for it. This family has been here for quite some time. I know several members of the family, and they live in the surrounding area. So they're supportive of, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I can presume through conversations that they understand the need of parking there.
All right, so we're looking for this committee then to make a recommendation, or actually to...
We're looking for you all to make a recommendation to authorize the county administrator to enter into negotiations on the purchase of the property.
And then any purchase then would be approved by council.
It would be full council.
And again, this is in my district, and this is one of those things that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The house sells again, you'll never have this opportunity. That is probably one of the more heavily used boat landings. We only have a couple in Bluffton. So, you know, obviously for me, I think it's important for us to at least look at this and move forward, and to see if we can make things work on the piece of property. However, let's open it up for any discussion we have right now with anyone else in council that would like to.
If I may.
Yes, ma'am.
This is my typical presentation. I like to have a lot more facts when presenting to committee council. I do want to explain to council why this is coming forward so quickly. It was brought to our attention a short time ago, like I said. We are still in the process of obtaining an appraisal, so the family has agreed that the appraisal is going to be taken into consideration. So I'm stating the 1.9, but that price may fluctuate either way. In addition to that, by the time this comes forward in front of council, I would have worked with engineering to be able to explain to council what's the benefit here as far as parking goes. How much more parking would we be expanding into? So I believe those questions can be answered, but at the same time, this is on the open market, so.
It does also have its own
It does have its own dock.
Its own deep water dock.
It does have a deep water access, which I can show you. You can see it right here. This is a deep water dock owned by the house.
Let me make sure I understand. The yellow, the colored parcel is a half an acre?
Combined with the home
The home and the yellow portion?
is a little over half an acre.
Wow.
According, and again, I have not had that verified. That is according to our tax records, which I can absolutely verify, and I'm sure the listing agent can help me out with that as well.
Brittany, this is Councilman Dawson.
Yes, sir.
The purchase of the parcels for additional parking spaces, I can, that's a no-brainer. But I'd like someone to explain to me the uses that we would have for the house.
Unfortunately, sir, the family is not willing to sell one without the other. They would be selling this together. And then administration, we would have to determine what to do with the parcel whereby the house lies on.
So, in taking Mr. Dawson's question is they want to sell the whole thing, so if we wanted to purchase it, we'd have to purchase the entire thing. It would then be up to council of if we did decide to purchase it, and you're gonna have to go through a vote, they wouldn't just purchase it, of what we did with it, and that would be either then to sell the house separate, tear the house down, use the house for other purposes, looking at the total amount that we've spent, and again, being prudent with the taxpayers' money.
And it may be that we could also, just as another option, is there ability to resurvey this and add in even more property in front of the home here, and then sell the house? I mean, there are several options to your point.
Okay. All right, so what we are looking for is, good, Mr. Robin?
You looking for a motion?
Oh, yes, sir. Looking for a motion?
Sounds to me like it's a good deal. Time is of the essence. Shouldn't take you too long to figure it out and bring it back to us. So I would move that we send this forward with a recommendation from finance to council.
I will second that.
We got a second. I see Mr. Hervishon, so now we're open up for discussion. Mr. Hervishon, would you like to go ahead and have the floor?
Yes, please, thank you. Question and a comment, but the question would be, is this in unincorporated Beaufort County, or is this in the town of Bluffton?
This is unincorporated Beaufort County.
Correct.
Okay, very good. I share the same concerns that I've already heard, in that this is a very expensive piece of property, pushing $2 million, and it seems as though we'd be purchasing a apparently rather nice house, which I can't imagine that the taxpayers of Beaufort County have a use for. So I would be interested to see what the options are for that piece of property as well, but I do share those concerns, and whether it's in unincorporated Beaufort County, though.
All right, any more? Yep, Mr. Glover, go ahead.
I'll
Okay,
follow suit.
Mr. Robin?
I was gonna say, it sounds like if we buy it, we have the flexibility, to flip the house and use a portion of it for parking.
My only comment is that, a half an acre is not a whole lot of land, and you got a house on there as well, so that's my reservation, but if county can show, for the staff how they would create parking, how many space would be on there, and what do you do with the house itself, it just doesn't seem like a lot of land there, including the house, that's all my comment.
And I thought the same thing. I thought it was actually a bigger parcel, seeing it down there, and it could end up being a bigger parcel. All right, so any more discussion from anybody? I can't see if you are. With no more discussion, we're gonna.
Chairman, I just have one.
Yes, sir. Mr. McKellen, go ahead.
The house listed for sale on the market now.
It is.
the list price?
1.995.
And that's with an appraisal that the owner obtained?
That is, their listing agent has listed it. And it's more than likely just a price opinion from their real estate agent. But I am obtaining an appraisal for it following this meeting. So I can provide much greater information at the next council meeting.
Okay. Could you move that picture up a little bit to the end of the dock that's facing that right? So it's got you at the bottom? And that would be part of the purchase as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any more discussion before we take a vote? I'm going to ask if there's any objection. We need to take a roll call. Is there any objection? I don't see any objection. All right, so we will then, this passes without objection. We will then move this to county and where we can get more information from you.
Yes.
So thank you,
I will
Ms. Ward.
have more information for you at the council meeting.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so obviously there's nothing out of executive session, and we had the citizens' comment before. I appreciate everyone's patience. I know this took a little longer than expected. Mr. Greenway, anything that you've got?
No, good.
All right, so Mr. Robin, how long do you need?
Roughly, we convene about roughly 3:45 for public facilities.
No, 3:45, we can do that.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.